Thanks everyone for being here. We've heard from the public. As folks know, last Friday we had a community meeting to talk about the increase in violence that we're seeing in the city. And one of the things that we've heard is that it's very important for people to have more information and regular information. So we're going to start to do weekly press conferences similar to what we did during the height of COVID, to give people updates on the progress that we're making on confronting violence, and collaborate with the public to share information and make sure that we're working together as a community to respond to this increase in violence. And I wanted to just say a couple words before turning over to the chief. That's kind of the beef of today's press conference, that she will be sharing a lot of information. You know, as I've said many times, that we're seeing the increase in violence around the nation. And there's been a lot of conversations about what's driving this increase and speculation on what is doing that. A significant increase in the number of guns that have been purchased over the pandemic is one thing that people are thinking may have something to do with it. The temporary interruption of the typical strategies that law enforcement and social services use to stem the violence, with projects, violence interruption projects and activities like parole and probation custom visits, street outreach workers, Project Safe Neighborhoods, Project Longevity, those types of things were temporarily suspended. The incredible economic impact and stress that communities are feeling. And you know, it is hard to tell what is actually driving this violence. You know, my suspicion is that it's no single thing, that it's all these things in combination that are contributing to this challenge. And of course, New Haven is no different. We are working very hard to respond to the increase, and have been doing so for months and months and months. And our strategy basically has two components. One is focused on stopping the violence, and two is focusing on getting people the services that they need. And there's a lot of components to stopping the violence that we and our teams, not just in the police department, but with our nonprofit partners and other departments in the city, are working on. Of course, our detectives are working round the clock, literally round the clock, to solve these cases. I go to the scenes of homicides and I see the same folks out there, and I want to say hats off to the detectives, Sergeant Etienne and Sergeant Warner, and is it Lieutenant Warner, and the work that you are doing. It is not easy, but we're very appreciative. We're working very hard. We have some good leads on some of the cases to respond to some of these cases. Of course, increasing police walking beats and bicycle beats, addressing hotspot and issue areas around the city, like problem bars, for example, expanding our capacity, and we're doing that in a number of different ways. We are hiring new officers. Because it takes a long time to bring new officers onto the force, 10 months, 6 months in the academy, and then another 4 months shadowing another officer. In addition to the fact that over the next month we're recruiting new officers, we have put in a smaller number of officers into other academies. I swore in 5 just last week that will be entering another academy. And we're implementing lateral hires to hire officers that may be in law enforcement in another police department, so that we can increase our numbers. We've also increased our capacity through the shooting task force. I am very grateful to Colonel Malekas for being here, and your and the state's commitment to detailing some of your officers to our shooting task force, and for your partnership there. And there's other towns, Yale University, the state's attorney's office, that are all detailing individuals to the shooting task force. We are also expanding the number of cameras in the city. We plan on presenting in the near future a proposal to the Board of Alders for funding. We also plan on expanding the shot spotter system that covers a lot of the city but does not cover certain areas around Fairhaven, parts of Fairhaven, the Exit 8 area, the West Rock area, we intend on expanding that to also have more eyes and ears, if you will, on the street. We are implementing, as far as Stop the Violence, violence interruption strategies, street outreach workers. We've doubled the number of street outreach workers. We've increased the number of youth ambassadors through our Youth Connect program that reduces the ambassador to individual ratios so that they can spend more time with people that we think are at risk of being involved in the violence. And of course, have increased the number of call-ins through Project Safe Neighborhoods and Project Longevity. That's the stopping the violence component. And on the resources side, investing in our community and connecting with services, that is youth programming. We put $1.5 million this summer into additional youth programming. We've reopened the Reentry Welcome Center to engage every individual that's coming out of prison. And there's a number of projects that are longer term that are in the works. The creation of the crisis response team to help expand our ability to provide resources to individuals that are calling 911 that may not need the police. And the creation of a new department that the Board of Alders has reviewed and has not made the final vote on, but we are optimistic that they will approve the new department. The new department is pretty key because it will allow us to coordinate across different issue areas. People experiencing homelessness, mental health challenges, for example, may also be people that have a criminal history and go through our Reentry Welcome Center. And so connecting all those services allows us to better provide the supports and coordinate. But it also, there's a data component of this that will be very helpful to guide our thinking because we'll be looking at the data across all the different programs to make sure that we're providing those resources effectively. The final thing I'll say before handing over to the chief is that we need the public's help on this. And specifically, I will say the pressure on the police department and our detectives is immense. And oftentimes we have had, they're doing their work and then they need to pull off because there's another incident. And they need to go to that scene because in the first 24 hours, they're more likely to get a lot of information than if they wait. And so that they get pulled off of something that they're working on to focus on something new. If we get the public's information, I spoke at Tyshawn Hargrove's funeral last week, a 14-year-old that was shot and killed in our community. I'm speaking to hundreds of people, and I guarantee you there's people in the room that knew who shot that 14-year-old that was a member of our community. I guarantee. We need these people to come out and share this information so that we don't have another Tyshawn Hargrove next week. If someone that shoots it's highly possible they will shoot again. And by helping us solve one crime, you could help save a life. And you will allow our detectives to focus on solving other crimes. Every family that I speak with, the first thing they say to me when I say, what do you need? They say justice. People deserve justice. Our community deserves safety. And we need the public's help. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. So like the mayor said, at the community meetings that we went to on Friday and even Saturday, most of what we heard from the community was that we don't know what the police department is doing. So when I asked Chief Jacobson to help me kind of put together what we're doing, he gave me like 8 pages. So the amount of work that is done behind the scenes and that is not kind of put forward is immense. So we want to use this opportunity to weekly be able to give you snapshots of trends that we're seeing throughout the city, major incidents from the previous week, incidents of note to include arrest, search warrants, shots fired incidents that are significant. So that's what we will be, or I will be presenting on, kind of like moving forward. So I also want to thank the Connecticut State Police, Colonel Malikas, and also Sergeant Mahar, who have, in the past, we've always had collaboration with the Connecticut State Police on many of our task force that are here at the police department. But we've been talking about shooting task force since maybe February and how this is going to be a key component in reducing the violence and going after the incidents of gunfire that maybe somebody hadn't been struck or any of the non-fatal shootings. So we met yesterday with the commissioner as well, and the Connecticut State Police is giving us 3 individuals to be joining our shoot task force. So allowing us to expand our ability to investigate more cases. So we're very excited, and we thank you very much, and we're looking forward to the 3 individuals who will be starting Thursday. Tomorrow or Thursday. So it's right away, it's happening, and we're very excited. I'm going to go right into the gun stats and then just kind of show what the shooting task force has done that have led to arrests. As of this morning, we have 144 guns seized with 139 arrests. And this time last year, we had 97 guns seized and 114 arrests. And I know you've heard me talk about it multiple times. At the end of 2020, we were about 140 guns. So we're already surpassed what we were at the end of the year last year. Shooting task force, they were assigned 26 cases. Of those 26, the 4 I'm going to talk about are either arrest has been made or an arrest is pending. So on May 12th, ShotSpotter alerted to 335 Winthrop Avenue, where 2 9mm shell casings were located and a victim was being shot at but not struck. Shooting task force officer Joseph conducted the investigation, and it led to the arrest of Ronnie Henderson for multiple charges related to that. So what you'll hear multiple times is that ShotSpotter is what initially alerts us, which is why it's so important that we're going to be able to expand ShotSpotter further throughout the city to have more of these cases where we're called, we're going to the scene, and there's ballistics that we're able to retrieve and do follow-up and do more work on. On May 20th, ShotSpotter alerted to 168 West Street. 19 9mm shell casings were located in the road. Detective Crespo, who's assigned to the shooting task force, conducted an investigation, and it led to 2 arrests for gun-related charges and unlawful discharge. Both of them are still incarcerated, and a 3rd individual we're looking to do another arrest warrant for. August 19th, ShotSpotter alerted to 284 West Street, where 19 9mm shell casings were located in the road. A 14-year-old was driving a car that was struck by gunfire, and again, Task Force Officer Joseph is currently doing the investigation. That investigation has led to a search warrant, and the search warrant where we've located a weapon and other items from the shooting, and we believe that an arrest warrant for that will be forthcoming in the recent future. And then finally, related to shooting task force, on September 3rd, 209 Dixwell, ShotSpotter, again, we were alerted to gunfire. There was a fight that happened in the plaza, which led to the gunfire. Recently, Hamden has added Detective Crawford to our shooting task force, and he's assigned this case, and he's already within a couple weeks moving towards warrant for somebody to be arrested responsible for that incident. That's just some of the good work. Like I said, there's much more work that's been going on. Of those 26 cases, we could probably talk about each of them and give something significant, but these are ones that we either have arrests for or we will have arrests in the near future. And then I just want to touch on some significant arrests. Going back to July 26th, because it's so important how this kind of developed. 179 Blatchley Avenue, Detective Sanchez received information that 2 individuals had a firearm and a rifle. Both individuals are not eligible to possess the firearm, and with the assistance of probation, we were able to locate both of them, which led us to 179 Blatchley Avenue. We obtained a search warrant, and in the house, so we got 2 guns off those 2 individuals, and in the house they located 7 more handguns, or additional firearms, and 3 individuals were charged for those firearms. That's the kind of work. We take tips from the community, we take information from anywhere and anybody that will provide it to us, so no tip is a small tip. We investigate every single tip that comes in through that tip line. Following a homicide vigil, detectives received information from the Bridgeport gang unit that a juvenile was in possession of a firearm and would be attending the vigil for the recent homicide victim. The detectives conducted a motor vehicle stop with the help of patrol, and 2 firearms were located in that vehicle with 4 arrests. 2 of the individuals were juveniles and 2 of the individuals were adults. On September 8th at 11:34 hours in the area of Dixwell and Admiral, again, Joseph is our shining star here today. Task Force Officer Joseph received information that a juvenile was in possession of a firearm en route to a homicide victim's funeral in a stolen vehicle. 2 individuals were stopped after parking that vehicle, and an arrest was made for the stolen vehicle, and they were search incident to arrest. The juvenile was in possession of a revolver. So just in those two incidents alone, the information that comes into us, even though we need more information like this to continue to come to us, we are significantly stopping further violence at a place where people are grieving due to gun violence. We have a perpetual cycle of victimizing ourselves over and over again in the community over and over again. As people are mourning, there are people there with weapons, and what is the intention? I don't know. Are other people coming potentially for retaliation? We don't know, but we know that these weapons were at these two locations, and it's important for us to be able to take these off the streets. And that's what the men and women in this police department, not just the Detective Bureau, even though it's been heavy on the Detective Bureau this morning, always collaborating with patrol, always doing a fantastic job to try to keep the citizens in New Haven safe. I'm going to stop there and just give some additional items of note. In addition to the Connecticut State Police joining the shooting task force, our federal partners are also aiding us in crime suppression, where a New Haven officer and a federal officer will be together doing crime suppression. We do crime suppression every single night. Having a federal partner with us allows us to have more units out there instead of just having our own officers out there and detectives out there. We have a Project Safe Neighborhood call-in on the 20th, next Monday, and we've increased the number to 30 people. So there'll be 30 people at 200 Orange. This is individuals who are on probation or parole who we believe are involved in some type of gun violence. Like the mayor said, 5 new officers were sworn in on Friday, which was very exciting. 4 of those are New Haven residents. And as you can see by our banner here, the applications opened yesterday for recruitment. So we're starting our recruitment efforts, even though we're still in the process of putting people in the police academy. We don't want to have a break. We know that New Haven Police Department needs officers. The citizens, when we ask them every single time, when we go, we're doing canvases, what's the one thing that people want more of? They want more police. They want more walking beats. They want more bicycle beats. They want more engagement. Being able to not have breaks where we can continue to hire is what's going to be able to rebuild this police department. And then the final thing, around social media, on September 25th, on a Saturday, was an event that was planned by East Coasting Motorcycle Group. That event is canceled. So that there's not a permit for that. That event is canceled. We're putting that out on our social media. We will have a detail that day to ensure the safety of the residents in case individuals do gather, but we just want to make that very clear that it is not a sanctioned event. There is no permit, and we will be enforcing.
Questions from folks?
Chief, can you just explain to us, the mayor mentioned, his take on possibly what the uptick in violence is, but are you seeing one thing in particular, or is it a mix of things?
We are seeing a couple different types of trends. So we do obviously have group and gang violence. We have a couple different groups and gangs who are feuding with each other, and that's where some of the back and forth of the gunfire is coming from. We do have isolated incidents where we put those in a category of the individuals are known to each other, but not necessarily related to a group or gang. Domestic violence falls in there. Also, fights after there was a dice game, and there was a fight after a dice game which turned violent. There was a fight following at a bar, and it turned violent with gunfire. So we are seeing those types of trends that are happening throughout the city, which does make it more difficult to be able to focus all of our efforts in one place, knowing that all of the crime is coming from one place or coming from one gang or group. So we have to take the resources that we have and kind of address this and then move to address something else.
Can you talk a little bit about the shooting task force and kind of what their goals are? Are they folks who come in from other agencies who help your detectives? Just explain a little bit more about their goals.
So the shooting task force is a New Haven task force where we have partners from ATF, which allows us to have federal powers, and we've incorporated our surrounding towns, state police, the state's attorney to be able to enhance the unit. We know that the crime that happens in New Haven doesn't just stay in New Haven, and our bordering towns and cities feel the effects of that. So it's a way to be able to say, Hamden is having an issue in Hamden. What is the linkage to New Haven? And having somebody right here in the building to be able to have those conversations and develop information quickly and be able to do investigations not only in New Haven but in the outside agencies as well. What they focus on are shots fired where no one was struck because, and I've said it 1,000 times, you're probably tired of hearing me say it, that anytime a gun is fired, there's a potential for someone to be struck. So even if a shot's fired, there is no person struck. That does not mean that it's not going to be an incident that comes back and a person is shot or killed. And they will also be assigned cases, non-fatal shooting cases, depending if there's a linkage. Maybe there's a linkage through ballistics for another case and kind of putting it all together.
And when you bring in more state troopers to help you guys, logistically, does that cost more for New Haven, or is this kind of a shared well?
We provide the building, we provide the cases, and the other departments are providing us the resources. So we are very thankful for all of the partners that we have because we couldn't do it without them. But it is mutually beneficial for both, and it allows the smaller agencies, the experience that you can only get in a big city, and then to return back to their city and towns and really be able to have worked a whole investigation that you might not be able to see in a smaller town.
And you'll still do comp staff meetings as well, or is this going to be what you're going to do?
No, we still do CompStat every other week. Right now it's virtual due to we've grown in size, which is amazing for CompStat, and we cannot fit in our room.
And so for New Haven residents who want to watch this, best to go to the mayor's Facebook page, or if we're not here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I think this is also at CompStat, the media doesn't ask questions. This is also an opportunity for you to ask questions about what, issues may interest you as well. Yeah.
How many officers or patrolmen do you have on the force, and are you at full staff, or is this something you're trying to build up to?
We are currently staffed at 317 sworn officers. We're budgeted for 406, so we are below staff. So that is why recruitment is so important for us right now, to be able to, over the next 2 years probably, to be able to rebuild our police department to the numbers that we think will be able to have a bigger impact.
Colonel Lucas.
Absolutely.
Good morning. First of all, from the state police, we want to let you know that, we all know New Haven Police Department is an outstanding police department, and the state police providing resources to cities is nothing new. This time, the city reached out for the state, and Governor Lamont is in support of the troopers coming into the city. Right now, we're only coming in with 3 or 4 detectives, which is adds the resource for efficient deployment of more resources if we need it. But we work collaboratively, and it'll be a strong effort, and we like working with the cities. So.
Colonel, is there a specific skill set that you guys, with the Connecticut State Police, can bring that can sort of supplement what they're doing, other than just manpower?
So the personnel that we have assigned are familiar with the city, and they're familiar with the New Haven Police Department, and they've worked in the past, and will continue to. It only makes us stronger working with the city as well, because we need their help in a lot of things outside of the city. So I've worked, over my career, I've worked numerous times with the city, and each and every time, the New Haven Police Department brings an excellent product.
And Colonel, while we have you, do you mind just talking about Marlboro, the incident, the abduction? I mean, is there, people have questions, there's not a lot of information out there.
Yeah, that's a very active investigation. The Eastern District Major Crime Squad's working on that. We should have some more information in later this afternoon.
For the public who's concerned, these folks are out there, I mean, what would you say to them at this point in time?
Well, as of right now, I think it does look like it's random at this time. We're still working on that. You just got to be careful of your surroundings, as always. We'll have more information and hopefully make some arrests very soon.
Colonel, with regard to staffing, New Haven has had their issues with trying to get staffing up to what they're budgeted for. Why are you not sending more resources to New Haven? Do you have staffing issues as well?
Absolutely. Well, I wish we could send more. We have staffing issues too. Although we graduated 100 trooper trainees in the end of August, it takes an additional 2 months to get them ready for the road to be on their own. So we're still at about 832, and we have pending retirements coming up. So every department has it. I know New Haven has staffing shortages, so it's all around. But the governor's committed through the commissioner to provide us with more troopers. Hopefully, we'll be stronger, and then we can handle all these problems.
Could I ask one comment too, just regarding the shootings on the highway in Middletown? I mean, should people be concerned that there's someone out there shooting at cars?
That appears to be more of a road rage incident. That's still an active investigation as well. Fortunately, no one was injured in that, but it's just some things are getting out of control.
For Chief Dominguez, Mayor Oliver, why do you think some folks in the city are reluctant to come forward and share information with police? And is there more you think you should do to try to get those folks to trust you?
I think that there's a few things that that are at play. Trust with the police department. However, I do think that we do a great job and have always done a great job. Our detectives who go out there later, our walking beats who go out there, our district officers, our district managers who make sure that they try to make the connections for that face that's familiar with somebody after an incident. And we try to do canvases after each incident so that a lot of times the initial incident, people are reluctant to speak because it's still unfolding. It's very active. There's a lot of other people watching. And I do think that there is a fear that if you're talking to the police, you could potentially be a target. So what we do have is the anonymous tip line, which is 1-866-888-TIPS, which is 8477. That, like I said, every single tip that comes in, a detective is listening to, and we are putting it out and investigating each tip to see how it relates to any crime that has come in. It doesn't have to be one of the major crimes that come in. We get tips on this tip line all the time about a variety of incidents. But what we are asking, if for any reason that people are fearful or they just want to remain anonymous, this is a complete anonymous way to leave tips and to help us with our investigations.
Do you think the public is skeptical about, well, how do we know it's going to be anonymous? How do we know our name's not going to get out there? You know, kind of a thing.
Whatever you leave on the tip is what we work off of. So if there's nothing left on that tip line, we do not know who came in. It is not recorded. There's not like we have a secret caller ID that's logging all this. You're calling this number. It is completely anonymous, and you can leave as much or as little information as you want for us to follow up.
And Chief, for residents or even folks out of the city who haven't been following all of this like some of us have, where do you quantify, qualify, I don't know, violence this year compared to last year and the previous years?
So we have an increase in violence this year where we are at 83 shootings and 22 homicides. Last year at the end of the year, we finished with 20 homicides, so we are definitely have seen an increase from last year to this year.
Do you think, Chief, that there will be more folks who live in the city that ultimately will apply for the police department because of all of this violence that's happened, because they want to take a stake in the game?
I think that just based on the 5 that we sent to the Post Academy and 2 that we're putting on the Board of Police Commissioners meeting tonight to recommend to hire, of those 7, 5 are New Haven residents. So the pool of applicants that we have for this test is much more filled with New Haven residents. So that is exciting to think that this is going to be the trend moving forward. And the recruitment efforts that we are doing now are above and beyond what we've done before. And I do think that people want to be able to get involved and to give back to the community and to be able to be a part of the change. And that is what is happening here. So yes, I do think we will see that.
What would you say to folks who think that stepping forward with information might not be worth it? Or not every time a crime happens, the arrest is made, people are facing some sort of social stigma or pressure in stepping forward. What would you say to those folks who are concerned that might not be worth it to come forward?
I would say I'm sure many people have somebody in their lives that they know have been touched by gun violence. So the information that you are giving to the police department is helping those families that you know or are in your neighborhood reach some sort of justice for their loved one who was shot, who was murdered. So it's extremely important, and every little piece, like I say, is important. It may be the last piece of the puzzle. Many of the cases that the detectives are working on, they're almost there. We just need the help from the community to push it over the finish line so that we can get it to warrant, so that we can make an arrest. Yes.
I mean, to me, it's a question of what kind of community we want to be. We can be a community that one person shoots someone and then that person's friend shoots me, and that cycle continues over and over and over again. And not only do we end up losing our lives, but hundreds of family members and community members are grieving and experiencing incredible loss. Or we can be a community that stops the cycle of violence. And we are doing everything that we possibly know how to do to stop the violence. And if there's other ways that people think we need to, other programs, we are open to that. But this is, in a large part, also the community saying enough is enough. And even if I am afraid, I want it to stop. Even if there's a lot of pressure on me not to be a snitch, I want it to stop, because justice is not about me taking someone else's life, because that's just going to come back and hurt me again. Justice is about accountability, and justice is about a community that deserves to feel safe and currently doesn't feel safe.
Mayor, you had the meeting last Friday night. Do you plan other community gatherings to get some more input?
Yes, we do, and we also I had a smaller meeting with pastors on Saturday morning to talk with our local clergy about other ways that we can work together as well. So you can anticipate more meetings.
I'm just wondering, Mayor, how do you feel about the school superintendent now requiring parents to go with any student who wants to attend a sporting event, maybe the fight clusters as well?
Yeah, so those fights were very concerning to us, the police department, the youth department, and of course the Board of Education. I very much support the superintendent's initiative to reduce the number of people at this event and effectively require chaperones at sporting events. Safety needs to be our priority, and the fact that there was some concerning levels of fights at this sporting event is deeply concerning. There's another football game this coming Friday, and we will be prepared and make sure that, number one, there will be reduced capacity because of the superintendent's new change in policy. Number two, I know that the superintendent's, Chief Reddish, who is the head of the school security, will be handling and making sure that people that show up that do not have a chaperone are turned away. And number three, our police department is in close contact with Chief Reddish, and we will have enough staffing available to make sure that there will be, if there's any incidents, that we'll respond accordingly.
Is the city or department particularly planning something specific in response to fights at the football game? Or just there to support the schools and their security efforts? Are they doing?
So we always staff the sporting events. So we did have staff there last night, and Friday night, and we also utilize our SROs because our to be a part of the team that is at them, because we know that our SROs know the individuals best and are probably able to mediate some of the issues before they start. So on top of having our SROs there, next Friday we will augment with additional police personnel in the at the game and also surrounding after the game.
There are some folks in their plan to gather their data tonight as part of an effort to dissuade from gun violence in the community in the area. Just want to be very sure your thoughts on what they're doing.
Are we talking about in the lot of the Grand Cafe? I think it's an excellent idea. If you talk to many of our lieutenants who are very involved in kind of policing through an environmental design, if you have positive activities happening in negative space, less negative activities will occur there and more positive activities will occur. So we will have police there to support, not to be doing anything else other than say we stand with you. We are excited that you're trying to use this space for games and for whatever kind of positive community activities in this parking lot that they're going to be doing. And what Chief Jacobs reminded me, we did do a search warrant Thursday night at the Grand Cafe following. It was not because of the shooting incident. It was months in the works through Lieutenant Fumiati and also Lieutenant Warner's team to be able to identify some issues that were happening there, to be able to get a search warrant for that establishment and to be able to execute the search warrant. However, we were not as successful as we hoped that we would be, but I think a lot of the incidents that happened just prior may have deterred some of the activity from occurring in there.
The Eastern Street shooting this morning, is that the latest violence, or is that something different?
No, ma'am, that is something different. That is not related to any trend of violence.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.